Imagine a civilization that turned murder into a religion. A society where infants were discarded for crying too softly. Where boys as young as 12 were sent into the night to hunt human beings, not for survival, but for sport. This was Sparta. A name that echoes through history as a synonym for strength, but what if its power was built not on honor, but on a labyrinth of secrets? What if the Spartans' legendary courage masked a deeper, darker truth? Welcome to the Empire of Shadows. The Bloody Foundation. Sparta's story begins not with glory, but with a crime. According to myth, the city was born from violence. The Spartan king Eurysthenes, a descendant of the bloodthirsty Heracles, seized power by slaughtering a rival king's heirs. But the real horror began centuries later, when Sparta conquered its neighbor, Messenia. Overnight, the Spartans became masters of a Helot population, enslaved Greeks forced to farm the land. But these weren't mere slaves. They were prisoners of war, stripped of their names, their families, their humanity. And Sparta lived in terror of them. Here's the chilling twist: the Helots outnumbered Spartans 10-1. To control them, Sparta became a military state, a prison camp disguised as a utopia. Boys were taken from their mothers at age 7, thrust into the agoge, a training system so brutal it makes modern boot camps look like summer camp. They learned to fight, steal, and endure starvation. But the true test came at night. Armed only with a dagger, they were sent into the hills to stalk the Helots. To kill, to terrify, to become weapons. This was the Crypteia, Sparta's secret police, a shadow army that murdered without trial. And the Spartans called it training. The cryptic ritual of the cryptos. The Crypteia's methods were unspeakable. Each autumn, the Spartan elite declared a war on the Helots, not with armies, but with assassins. Young Spartans, their faces smeared with ash, crept through villages under cover of darkness. They slit throats. They left bodies in fields as warnings. Survivors were forced to wear humiliating caps, branded as cowards. But the most horrifying detail: the Crypteia wasn't just about control. It was a rite of passage. To become a Spartan warrior, you had to prove you could become a monster. And what of the Helots who fought back? In 464 BCE, a massive earthquake struck Sparta, killing thousands. The Helots saw their chance and rebelled. The Spartans responded by offering freedom to any Helot who could claim they'd never defied Sparta. When 2,000 stepped forward, the Spartans slaughtered them all. That was Sparta, a society so paranoid, it weaponized hope. The price of perfection. But the horror wasn't reserved for outsiders. Spartan mothers inspected their newborns like livestock. If a child was deemed unfit, too small, too sickly, too human, it was carried to Mount Taygetus and left to die on the apotheke, the place of rejection. Even kings weren't exempt. Legend says King Cleomenes III hurled his own son off a cliff for showing weakness. Yet Spartan women wielded power unheard of in the ancient world. They owned land, ran estates, and mocked men who fled battle. "Come home with your shield or on it," they'd say. But this freedom came at a cost. Spartan girls were whipped in public rituals to toughen them, their bodies beaten until blood stained the temple floors. Strength was everything. Mercy was treason. The whip and the knife. Sparta's gods demanded blood. At the sanctuary of Artemis Orthia, boys were flogged until their flesh hung in ribbons, all to honor the goddess. The festival of Diamastagosis wasn't a metaphor. Spectators cheered as priests whipped children into delirium. Some died. Others were maimed for life. And this was considered noble. Even death in battle was a performance. Spartans combed their hair before combat, believing a beautiful death pleased the gods. But here's the secret they never shared. Many warriors likely died of exposure or infected wounds long before their glorious end. Sparta's reputation relied on lies as much as steel. The Phantom Army. Now, let's talk about the 600. After Thermopylae, where Leonidas and 300 Spartans fell, a second force of 600 Spartiates, full citizens, vanished from history. No graves. No records. They simply disappeared. Some say they were killed in a plague. Others whisper they were sacrificed to appease the gods. But the truth? We may never know. Sparta buried its secrets deeper than its dead. The cracks in the shield. Sparta's end came not from enemies, but from within. Centuries of inbreeding among the elite left rulers mentally and physically broken. King Agesipolis III, who died around 215 BCE, was so feeble he couldn't walk. The Agoge decayed into corruption, with wealthy families buying exemptions for their sons. By the time Rome conquered Greece, Sparta was a joke, a theme park of traditional rituals performed by men too weak to wield a sword. Yet the myth endured. When the Roman Emperor Caracalla visited in 214 CE, he demanded a Spartan-style education for his troops. They revolted. Even then, Sparta's shadow loomed. The end of the line. The last Spartans died not in battle, but in obscurity. By 146 BCE, their once proud city was a backwater. The Helots were freed, but Sparta's legacy lived on in darker ways. Nazi Germany idolized its racial purity. Modern militaries romanticize its discipline. But let's be clear, Sparta wasn't a beacon of strength. It was a warning. A civilization that reduced humans to tools, that mistook cruelty for virtue, that burned so brightly it consumed itself. So, what's the lesson here? That greatness demands sacrifice. Or that some sacrifices devour the soul. Sparta's story isn't just about the past. It's about us. Every time we glorify strength over compassion, every time we justify cruelty for a greater good, we echo the whispers of that shadow empire. The Spartans lived by the sword, and the sword destroyed them. Ask yourself, what shadows lie behind your own ideals? And what would you be willing to become, to win? Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more content. Until next time.